It's tragic. It's complicated. You got compelling arguments that's coming from both sides. Trust me, I know prosecutors who could take the information that they have and get a conviction. And a skilled defense lawyer could take that same evidence and get a not guilty verdict. It's all about presentation. It's all about your arguments. It's all about your details. It's all about your experience. And sometimes talent got to win the day. Yes.
Call your first witness. I got Kenneth Willis. He bought his business, he gon' take it the distance. Listen, he giving gaming, believing high level represent. Call your first witness. Yeah, call your first witness.
Griff has been paid for this endorsement.
Where you at, beautiful people? How you doing? How you living? How life treating you? Welcome to another season and another episode of Call Your First Witness. It's your boy K Will checking in. I am excited. This is season 2 of Call Your First Witness. It's been a minute. It's been way too long. I'm going to dispense with excuses and justifications as to why you haven't seen me for a minute. But I need you to know I've been dying to get back here, y'all. I think Kobe Bryant said it best, man. You can only suppress your passion for so long. And so many things kept me away from this mic. I ain't gonna lie, at times I thought I wouldn't even be back here doing this. And it's not like your boy was out on some health issues and all that kind of stuff. I'm grateful to have my health. I'm not even going there. It's just life, man. The vicissitudes of life, the demands of being an adult, a parent, a professional, a husband. You know what I mean? And still in all, that's not an excuse for me to dip out the way I did. All I know is I feel good to be back in this moment, in this time, back by this mic, doing what I enjoy doing and bringing my knowledge and my experiences to you. And that's what I plan on doing. And all I want is my actions to speak louder than my words, my apologies, my regrets. And so let's jump right into it like I always do. What is on today's docket? How are we going to pick up season 2? What are we going to talk about today? I think you heard of a story that's been prevalent in the news, on social media. It's the tragic story of Kyren Lacy. And the story is not just about Kyren Lacy, but it's also about another man that lost his life by the name of Herman Hall. Herman Hall was involved in this accident. But there's something about this story, y'all, that I can remember back to the day when Kyren was arrested, the day when this story as it relates to Kyren's arrest hit the news. And, you know, I remember reading it as a headliner, you know. Obviously, Kyren Lacy was a star standout receiver for LSU. Now, let me tell you something. Your boy is an LSU fan through and through. LSU Tigers football fan. Let me say that. Let me make that clear. Because some folks like, what? Some folks cringing right now because your boy bleed Columbia blue and gold. Shout out to Southern University, as well as Southern University Law Center. But when it come down to my LSU Tigers, you heard me? I'm talking about the football team. When it come down to those fighting Tigers, that history, that love, that bond, that relationship go way, 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 way back. I'm talking about when I was a kid, man. I'm talking about when they weren't winning. I'm talking about when my dad would listen to the Tigers playing on the radio because they were too poo, as we would say growing up, to be on TV. You understand? So my dad would be in the living room listening to his LSU Tigers, and I'm in my room listening to him listening to the Tigers. And for the most part, we talking about in the 90s, they weren't winning, but you better believe my dad was a diehard fan which made me a fan. Yeah, so when we talk about the Tigers, I'm not just talking about the run they had with Nick Saban or the run they had with Les Miles or Coach O. I'm talking about the 90s, man. I'm talking about when they weren't winning. I'm talking about Larry Foster from the West Bank wide receiver. I'm talking about Reed. I'm talking about Skylar Green from the West Bank. I'm talking about Michael Clayton. I'm talking about a long lineage of wide receivers. And so when I saw Kyren Lacy play for the first time, yeah, when I saw his athletic prowess on the field, I think it was the USC game, his second season, man, dude went ham. I said, okay, that's him. That's that dude right there. 7 catches, 94 yards, a touchdown. That was his last season at LSU. To me, that's when I saw him, because it was the first game of the season of his last season, and it was on prime time. They played USC. They lost, but something about that game, I said, that's that dude. And you better believe he balled out for the remainder of that entire year and put himself in a great position to be drafted. Not in the 5th round, not in the 4th round, not in the 3rd. The 1st round, y'all. That was that dude. And so you have to understand, when I saw the headliner attached to Mr. Lacy's name was negligent homicide. But that's not the one that hit me. The second charge, that's the one that really hit me, because it's way too familiar in my line of work. We also talking about hit and run. Y'all have to understand, as a criminal defense attorney, I've handled numerous charges that come in a combo pack just like this. You got the negligent homicide and you got the hit and run. And for many years, the hit and run was worse than the negligent homicide. You see, you got to understand, not to undermine the severity of the loss of life when we're talking about negligent homicide. But for a long time before 2024, the maximum penalty for negligent homicide was 5 years. And the 5 years was a probatable offense, meaning you can get probation based on your record or the lack thereof. And yes, it's unfortunate that the victim lost their life, and we don't want to make light of that. In this particular case, Mr. Herman. But prior to August 2024, you didn't even have to serve prison time. And let me be clear, even now, the penalty does not carry mandatory prison time. But it changed after August of 2024, and it changed. That 5-year maximum went up to 10 years. And the significance about that 10-year increase in the penalty came around the same time when the new governor stepped in and rolled out his tough on crime plan. Yeah, all the politicians and lobbyists and a lot of folks at the Capitol in Baton Rouge in 2024, you either were having a good time or you were getting the blues. And so a lot of laws changed, and negligent homicide was one of those laws where the penalty increased to 10 years. And so now you have this combination where you got negligent homicide 0 to 10 years, depending on your history, the nature of the crime, and everything else the judge is bound to consider in sentencing you. You're really subject to anywhere from probation to up to 10 years. So I've seen these charges time and time again, and a lot of times it's the hit and run that's worse than the negligent homicide. Because what you see in a lot of these cases, it's like, listen, man, it's not the end of the world. Yes, it's unfortunate what the charges are and what they're alleging that you did. But at the end of the day, we still got to figure out whether or not this was criminal behavior. right? Or does this fall in the civil realm? It's not trial right now. It don't take much to get arrested. But when we have that charge attached to hit and run, meaning you left the scene, you had knowledge that you caused this accident or you were involved in this accident and you dipped. The law says you're supposed to stop. You're supposed to render aid. You're supposed to identify yourself. You dipped. And so the criminal negligent with the action that you left the scene, that for many years was worse than the negligent homicide because it carried 10 years and negligent homicide only carried 5. Before August 1st, 2024, before the new regime, before the governor, and this is important because the Louisiana State Police is involved in this investigation. You got to understand Louisiana State Police is an arm of the state. The superintendent is appointed by the governor. And I'm not trying to get all political and all this kind of stuff. I'm just setting a backdrop as to what's at play. And so you got Louisiana State Police doing this investigation. They have jurisdiction. This incident happened on Highway 20 on December 17, 2024. But it's in the jurisdiction of Lafourche Parish. All right. And so you have a situation where Louisiana State Police has the authority to investigate this case. But in terms of prosecuting this case, the case has to get turned over to the Lafourche Parish District Attorney's Office. And you've probably heard some of this, but the findings from the Louisiana State Police is at odds with the findings of the District Attorney's Office of Lafourche Parish. And so now you got a situation where you got the DA's office doing their own investigation, and you got the state saying, "Wait, we just handed you the file. You questioning our file? You questioning the state police? What's happening here?" And then so you got the DA. I'm just setting the backdrop. Because you got to understand, a lot of this stuff came out recently, but this been going on long before Kyren Lacy passed. You got to understand how many phone calls must have been happening to the DA's office when this all came about. We have the death of a 78-year-old veteran, right? Who had a family, who had loved ones, had a family, had friends. You better believe they were calling up the DA's office trying to figure out how they gonna get justice. But you also had Kyren Lacy. Although Kyren Lacy had plans, although Kyren Lacy was on his way to the league, although Kyren Lacy had an NFL agent conversing with him, trying to get him ready for the league, trying to figure out when he was going to get picked, Kyren Lacy was at the crib. Kyren Lacy was from Thibodaux. Thibodaux is a city in Lafourche Parish. And so, yeah, folks may look at this like it's black and white, but you got to understand, if he's in Lafourche Parish, if he's back home, you got folks who revere him, whether they black, whether they white. You got folks who encourage him, who support him. Yeah, a lot of folks made the league from LSU, but ain't a whole lot of folks made the league from Lafourche Parish or from Thibodaux. And so you got a DA of Lafourche Parish who has to be neutral and independent, right? Who has to look at a case involving someone who lost their life, unfortunately. And then you got a young man from Thibodaux, from Lafourche Parish, balled at UL, then transferred to LSU. Yeah. What you do with that if you a DA? Well, Christian Russell, the DA for Lafourche Parish, has to be neutral and independent. They already had a policy that say, listen, in every case involving the death of someone, we're going to put it in the hands of a grand jury. Most of you heard of this proceeding. A grand jury is comprised of citizens of that parish. They are impaneled to come in and listen to testimony, listen to evidence, and they are the ones deciding whether or not somebody should be indicted for a crime. In this case, negligent homicide. hit and run, and reckless operation of a vehicle. Right? And so what you have is in a situation, and let me tell you something, by law, the DA did not have to present that to a grand jury. Not a negligent homicide. Now, if Kyren Lacy was, for whatever reason, charged with first-degree murder or second-degree murder, well, that's a mandatory grand jury proceedings because it carries life in prison. Right? But this is a specific policy that the DA has, and basically it says, look, in the case of all debts, it's not even in my hands. Or is it? And see, a lot of times you have the DA, when they put it in front of the grand jury, it takes the pressure on them because they can always say the citizens of this parish made a decision that there was probable cause to indict this person. Not saying there's anything wrong with that policy, but that's what was in place. That is what was happening. And if you listen to Matthew Ory, Kyren Lacy's attorney, who brilliantly came with his evidence, his information, his video, his data, his reports, carefully compared the state police report to the district attorney's office report, and he shared his findings and his analysis with a local news network, right? And so Mr. Ory is saying, listen, I believe, based on the fact that the district attorney's office pointed out so many inconsistencies with Louisiana State Police, essentially what he was saying, and I'm paraphrasing, but he felt kind of comfortable about the grand jury proceedings. Listen, y'all, I am not too familiar with Lafourche Parish. In my 17 years practicing, I think I went there maybe twice, maybe 3 times. But I remember being in and out, not because I don't like practicing there, not because I have a problem with people out there. Lafourche Parish is just too far for me. I'm not going to act like I know the lay of the land out there. But what I do know is, there is much to be said when we hear the ancient phrase, the DA can indict a ham sandwich. And so essentially what that means is, yeah, you could say I'm putting it in the jury's hands, but who's presenting it to the jury? Who's presenting the facts or the witness to the jury? Who's presenting the evidence? The jury can't make a decision on their own. Somebody got to present it to them. And in a grand jury proceedings, by law, it's considered a secret proceedings, right? A prosecutor from the district attorney's office is the person presenting the evidence to the jury. And guess what, y'all? A defense lawyer can't be present there. The defendant can take the stand and testify if you want to. You sure about that, big dog? I don't know if you want to do that. But a defense lawyer cannot even walk in the venue just for a cup of water. Right? You could show up and I don't know, sit outside in the foyer, big dog. Hey, Mrs. Criminal Defense Lawyer, how are you? Well, what are you here for? Oh, you here for the grand jury proceedings involving your client? Okay. Is he testifying? No. Okay, that's good to know. But guess what? I need you to wait right there in that hallway. Yeah, this don't got nothing to do with you right now. This is secret proceedings. And so basically what I'm saying is, you don't get those checks and balances that you would get in a trial. You don't get the adversarial nature of a criminal defense lawyer coming in there and questioning the lead detective, questioning the witnesses, having their own rebuttal. We're talking about the one mechanism that's more potent and more dynamic than missiles and firearms and bombs. We're talking about the tool of cross-examination. The device that's in place to help us arrive at the truth. That's out the window. And so What was interesting about this whole setup, y'all, is I hear Mr. Ory's confidence that maybe Mr. Lacy would have came out good. I hear that he's saying that the district attorney's office is at odds, or their findings were at odds with state police. But when I looked at the report closely, I didn't really see a whole lot of language that clearly absolved Mr. Lacy. You may remember when he talked about the last sentence in the district attorney's report when they said Kyren Lacy, 72 yards away from the incident before the crash happened, could not have known that his actions was the cause of that crash. So they talking about Kyren Lacy's knowledge. And so when I'm thinking about Kyren Lacy's knowledge, I'm saying, well, there's a reason why that language is in there. And as I'm reminded by the statute, criminal negligence and negligent homicide does not talk about the offender's knowledge. Yes, if we look at the statute, under Louisiana law, negligent homicide is the killing of a human being by the actions of the offender's criminal negligence. Now, what are we saying? So, of course, criminal negligence has a definition. And essentially what it says is you don't need specific intent. You don't need general intent. You don't need to intend to carry out this crime. All the law says is if your actions amount to a gross deviation of a standard of care which causes this death, that's grounds for criminal negligence. And so it doesn't talk about the knowledge, but if you look at Louisiana law as it relates to hit and run, the statute is clear. If you either cause the accident, right? Or get this, y'all, this is important. If you are involved in an accident. So you don't have to be involved in an accident, i.e. Kyren Lacy. He was not involved in the accident. But if you cause it, and if that cause was a direct cause of this person's death, and you knew or should have known this accident would cause this death, and you didn't identify yourself, you didn't stop, those actions warrant a charge for hit and run. And so if you look at the report from the district attorney's office, it doesn't absolve Mr. Lacy from criminal negligence, but it does address his knowledge. Did he know from being 72 yards from an accident, right? Remember, he was driving southbound. And then he jumps in the lane of traffic that's going northbound, right? And so you have that gold truck that acknowledges he sees the green Charger coming at him head first. But also the black box in the report, based on the findings from the district attorney's office, saying he was going about maybe 26 miles per hour. All right. And if you listen to the video that Louisiana State Police released after Mr. Ory had his presentation, you hear the driver of the gold truck saying, look, I didn't skid. Basically saying, look, you had a green Charger that Kyren Lacy was in, was coming head at me, but I didn't skid. I didn't maneuver. I didn't do all that. And then a black box corroborated his statements, basically showing that he was going only about 26 miles per hour. And so the findings from the district attorney's office, they say, look, we did find that this was a no passing lane. Video revealed that Kyren Lacy passed 4 cars going 88 miles per hour in a 40 miles per hour speeding zone. And so we have some traffic infractions committed by Mr. Lacy based on the evidence, but we also have a traffic infraction committed by the driver who was behind the gold truck. This is the Kia Cadenza. The Kia Cadenza, according to the black box, was going about 49 miles per hour, 0.5 seconds trailing the gold truck. Right? According to the findings from the data box, it confirmed that the Kia Cadenza was tailgating, as Mr. Ori put it, or as the law puts it, driving too closely behind the gold truck. That's an infraction. She got cited for driving too closely. However, what we learned, one way or another, that citation was pulled. Now, I got to get more information about how that came about, what you mean it was pulled. I'm just going by what Mr. Ori said. I mean, what we mean pull? What we talking about? She knew somebody in the DA's office. She knew somebody like what we talking about pull? You give somebody an infraction and it don't happen. We know speeding tickets could just kind of disappear. We get that, but I need more clarity on what do we mean it was pulled. And so that's what Mr. Ori is highlighting in his presentation. He's saying if we have a situation where this person is tailgating the gold truck, and according to the black box, she makes a 75-degree left turn, which causes the collision with the Kia Sorento, which is the vehicle that Mr. Hall was in, and caused his death. Like, did the charger have anything to do with that sudden 75-degree turn into oncoming traffic? And you going 49 miles per hour, 0.5 seconds behind the truck that's only going 26 miles per hour. And he's saying, listen, no pressing on the brakes, no nothing. Like, listen, the driver behind me caused the accident. And so this is what we heard from Kyren's attorney saying, hold up, man, Louisiana police got this all wrong. But you already know state police ain't going out like that. They said, wait, what? What he said? They in that thing 10 toes deep said, oh, bet, I got you, cuz. Bet. Give me a moment. Give me a moment. And so they dropped the video. I believe it was maybe a day or two later, they dropped the video. We saw the video. Now we got more expanded information. And look, y'all, I'm going to tell y'all, there's a reason why my show is called Call Your First Witness. I'm not a news network. I'm not something that's just going to put out a piece of a story today. Everybody going to make a decision. And then we put out a piece of story the next day. Now folks changing their decision and all that kind of stuff. Nah, this Call Your First Witness. We don't talk about what's being tried in the court of public opinion. Nah. That don't concern me as it relates to what comes out at trial. Yes. It's a different ball game. That's why we got to pause when we start making summary statements and rushing to judgment. We got to wait and listen to all the testimony, the statements, the reports, right? And so you had so many people, networks coming out having one thing to say when Mr. Ori's statement came out and his presentation, and then a day or two later, oh man, my bad. Like I didn't see the video that Louisiana State Police dropped. I want to amend my up in arms performance that I had a day or two ago. You had ESPN. Some folks had to backtrack. I apologize. I'm sorry. I got too caught up. We got to look at all the evidence. And what am I saying? What you saying, Willis? You saying because Louisiana State Police dropped the video, now if this case went on and Mr. Lacy was still with us and still would have been prosecuted, it wouldn't have looked good for Mr. Lacy? No. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm glad you asked, because now we got to break this thing a little further, because now we got more evidence. I paused for the cause. I had to sit back and look at everything. Let me see what you saying, Mr. Ori, your findings, your report, the DA's report, Louisiana State Police report. Let me look at this video that Louisiana State Police dropped. Y'all got any more information? Oh, guess what? We never going to get everything, because this ain't trial. And guess what? It's never going to go to trial. at least in the criminal realm. Because listen up, y'all, this thing still may be a civil case. Mark my word on that. We'll come back to that on a later date. This may still be a civil case because in the criminal sense, yes, there is a victim, but unfortunately, there's no longer a defendant. That's the tragedy in and of itself that can be talked about for another day. Yeah, Kyren unfortunately took his life. But is this all over? We know it's not over because the Attorney General said, look, we're going to do our own findings, our own report. But even in the civil realm, is this over? Yes, Kyren Lacy is no longer here. His legacy will forever be here. And you know what else is here? His estate. Uh-oh. His estate, Kyren Lacy, was on the cusp of making the league, the NFL. Kyren Lacy was on the cusp of making millions of dollars. But you better believe for him to get to that point, to be slated in the first round, you have heard about NIL, right? You have heard, you do know that these players are making ridiculous money before they even get into the league. You ever been on LSU's campus lately? And so I'm going to save that for another day, y'all. It's a lot of unpacking here, but I'm going to save that for another day. I'm wondering if Mr. Herman's family is going to go after the estate of Mr. Lacy, because Mr. Lacy had to have some money going to LSU, and the money is legal, and NIL is NIL, man. We don't have to sneak. LSU didn't have to sneak the money through the back door. They could come through the front door with it. So this even civilly, and let me tell you something, this is what makes this even more interesting because the criminal standard is much higher. We're talking about a much higher standard than the civil standard. Yeah, when we talking about the criminal standard, that's why I said the DA can indict a ham sandwich. Some of you've heard that before, but the truth of the matter is it don't take much to get indicted. That's why I was a bit baffled when Mr. Ori, Kyren's attorney, said I felt pretty good about it, but I'm like, hold up. Even in the report, she didn't clearly absolve him. And if she putting that in the jury's hands, who's going to present that evidence? And whoever's presenting that evidence going to get back what they want. That's why the phrase is commonly said, the DA can indict a ham sandwich. Why a ham sandwich? Why not a shrimp po' boy, a muffalata? I don't know. If you're in Harlem, maybe a chopped cheese sandwich. I don't know why a ham sandwich. But that's what's been said for over 100 years. But it's true. It don't take much. But when we talking about the criminal sense, when we talking about, all right, yeah, you might get arrested. Yeah, you might get indicted, but it's not over. You got to understand that when we're talking about a conviction, the standard is different. It's a high standard. It's a high burden that the state has to meet. And so I don't know what was shared to Mr. Lacy. I can only imagine. You got to understand that meeting with the client, they want assurances. They want you to tell you that everything's going to be all right. You're going to get through this. They want certainties. Mr. Willis, can we beat this? Tell me we could beat this. Tell me what's your percentage rate on how we going to win this case, Mr. Willis? And all I could tell you is, listen, man, I can't guarantee you the result of this case. I can't tell you how it's going to play out. I don't have a crystal ball, man. The only thing I can guarantee you is I'm going to give it everything I got. I'm going to give it everything I got. I promise. I don't know if that's enough for me to tell you right now, but man, listen, this is a serious case. And so I know, even though I'm listening to Matt Ori talk about his conversation with Kyren, and I'm listening to him saying, Kyren saying, you got me, dog, you got me, dog. And I'm listening to his lawyer say, man, I got you, dog. I got you. But we can't guarantee the outcome. We don't know how this thing gonna play out. We got a star former LSU receiver from Thibodeau. We got the loss of somebody who is a veteran. You got family members and friends concerned about justice. You got the Louisiana State Police at odds with the district attorney's office and their findings. What y'all talking about? We misrepresented facts, or there's a stark contrast to our report and based on what was found in the black box. What you talking about? Do you understand the lieutenant over the state police was appointed by the governor that came in with the new regime that's tough on crime. One of the crimes was negligent homicide when they expanded it from 5 years to 10 years. What you mean, DA? So I can't tell you how this thing gonna play out, Kyren. I'm sure Kyren wanted assurances, because it's not just the fact that he's looking at 2 crimes that carries up to 10 years in prison. It's not just the fact that he found himself in the snares of the criminal justice system, and I don't know, maybe he didn't have any confidence in how that's gonna play out. But the NFL and all the privileges, all the benefits, all the money was at his fingertips to realize his dream, what he worked hard for. You don't need me to tell you how hard it takes just to get into that position. And that seemed to be at the time snatched right from him. I didn't know Mr. Lacy. I wasn't a part of the conversation, but we can only surmise that the weight was too heavy. Did you hear when his lawyer said social media killed him? It's heavy, it's heavy, it's heavy, it's heavy. And I can just imagine. That's why when the news hit, and especially April 12th, when I realized he took his own life, right? Can you imagine his lawyer just trying to be positive, trying to be confident in his case, talking to him about the videos and evidence that supports your defense, talking to him about the black box data. Yeah, the black box data. I'm telling you, y'all, this case reminds me so much of that movie Flight. A lot of you probably watched this movie. It came out maybe in, I think, 2012. Good movie. Starring Denzel Washington. Denzel Washington character was a pilot for a commercial airline, right? And one of the other actors, Don Cheadle, if I'm saying his name right. Every time I think of Don Cheadle, I think of the movie Hotel Rwanda. That's one of the movies that's a classic, and he was the star actor in it. But in this movie, Flight, Don Cheadle was Whip Whitaker's lawyer. Denzel Washington's character was Whip Whitaker. And what was interesting about this particular case, you have to understand, Whip Whitaker was a great pilot. He was doing some phenomenal things. Even on that particular day, the plane had turbulence and he managed to get through that turbulence and put everything at ease. What he was doing was astonishing when he was in that cockpit, but all of a sudden the plane had a malfunction. And y'all, if you remember, oh man, go see the movie, man, the malfunction was so bad that Whip Whitaker had to figure out a way to land the plane. That thing was doing a deep dive all the way down, going God knows how many miles per hour. Imagine that, coming straight down vertically. Whip Whitaker, man, some kind of way worked his magic and had that plane turning upside down before it landed. Couldn't land at the nearest airport in Atlanta, so he had to find a big field to try to land the plane. Long story short, they had about 102 passengers. Only 6 people died. So it's Whip Whitaker, it's his union rep, and his lawyer all having breakfast together. Denzel, like, what we doing right now? Do you not understand? They saying I'm a hero out there. Yeah. The news, everybody saying I'm a hero. All those people survived. Do you not understand that I turned this plane upside down before it landed? Why are we sitting down with a criminal defense lawyer? And Don Cheadle's character said, Mr. Whitaker, you have to understand debt demands responsibility. Yeah, I heard the black box. Yeah, we understand the hero that you are, but 6 people died. Somebody has to pay. Right? In this particular situation, somebody died. Mr. Hall, somebody got to pay. But Kyren is telling his lawyer, you don't understand. I was almost a football field away from the crash. I slowed down. I got back into my lane of traffic. I slowed down. That crash happened way in front of me. Mr. Lacy, that demands responsibility. And so yeah, the black box reveals that the person behind the gold truck was trailing the gold truck and was going at 49 miles per hour, 0.5 seconds behind the gold truck. And so could it be that this accident, when she made the 75-degree left turn into ongoing traffic, her actions were an independent cause of this accident? Yeah, you passed lanes. Yeah, you violated traffic laws. Yeah, you were speeding, but that was not the direct cause of this accident. Could it be? Or the focus has to be on the fact that you violated a statute. You can't be speeding. You can't be going 88 in a 40 miles per hour speed zone. You cannot pass cars in this area. This is a no passing lane. These laws are designed to avoid people from having accidents. And this is the very thing that transpired right after your actions. Debt demands responsibility. In the flight case, Don Cheadle had to say, look, Whip, I hear what you're saying. I hear what the black box revealed, that you had a broken plane. But, bro, let's talk about this toxicology report. Let's talk about the fact that you were high on cocaine. Yes. And this report reveals that your blood alcohol content level was a 0.24. What you mean, bruh? A 0.24? Do you not understand? In America, this liberal place to live as it relates to alcohol consumption, the legal limit for driving is 0.08. You at a 0.24, big dog? You can tell me what about this black box all day long, bro. We got to address this toxicology report. Mr. Lacy, I hear what you're saying, but the Louisiana State Police is going to scream loud and clear that you were speeding. You were in a no passing lane right before this accident happened. And yeah, Mr. Ory is going to refute all that and say, man, let's listen to these statements. And even the lady who made the 75-degree turn said, oh, the truck in front of me jerked on their brakes, not once, but twice. How that contradicted the data in the black box. And all you're going to have is that prosecutor coming in and say, oh, well, you know, there's this thing called traumatic memory. And so you have to understand that when a traumatic incident happens, people's account may be fragmented as to what occurred. And so just because some of the stuff that the witnesses said may be inconsistent with the scientific data, that doesn't mean they were intentionally lying. That's just their perception. And so you're going to get that kind of back and forth, not in the court of public opinion, but that would have came out in trial. And again, in a civil case, you might still hear those kind of arguments being made. Somebody may say, Willis, who you arguing for, the state? You arguing for the defense? No, you got to understand, I am a criminal defense lawyer through and through, but I must know the opposing argument. I got to know that argument better than they know it. And so, of course, Mr. Ory knows when he come out with this statement, there's another angle to this that Louisiana State Police is coming with. And that's why you got people vacillating. They don't know what to say and how to say it. You got the coach. Somebody told him, stay away from statements with a 10-foot pole. Don't comment on that case. Don't get too passionate for or against. Just say, listen, we're going to rely on all the evidence. And that's what he did. Yeah. LSU head coach, he got the memo. Don't touch that. So listen, y'all, this it's a lot going on. It's not over with. It's tragic. It's complicated. And I just wanted to be able to give some analysis, some type of legal breakdown. You got compelling arguments that's coming from both sides. I'm just keeping it real with you. Trust me, I know prosecutors who could take the information that they have and get a conviction. Right? And a skilled defense lawyer could take that same evidence and get a not guilty verdict. It's all about presentation. It's all about your arguments. It's all about your details. It's all about your experience. And sometimes talent got to win the day. Yes. That's why they always teach us in law schools, it's not about being right and wrong. They teach us how to present arguments on both sides. And you better believe on both sides, they would have been bringing it. And again, it may not be over because remember what I said, this may very well be a civil action. And guess what? The standard in the civil case is way lower than beyond a reasonable doubt. All it takes is 50% plus 1/10 of evidence to prove your case. Stay tuned, y'all. That's my time, y'all. I'm glad you're back. I'm glad to be back joining me with season 2 of Call Your First Witness. All I can say is stay with me, and I'm going to try to keep bringing it. 1.
Call your first witness. I got Kenneth Willis. He bought his business, he gon' take it the distance. Listen, he giving gaming, believe in high level representation. Call your first witness. Yeah, call your first witness.
Griff has been paid for this endorsement.